The silence that hid a world homeless. And without hope, she wept with her son in her arms until a stranger approached. Little did she know that this encounter would change her destiny forever. Prepare to live an emotional story. Omitted introductory lines for style. The afternoon sun beat down strongly on the wooden benches of the park, but Sarah felt no warmth. She felt nothing but the weight of Leo sleeping against her chest, and the emptiness that occupied all the space where certainties once lay. Her tears fell silently, wetting the little boy's brown hair, who snored softly, oblivious to the disaster that was their life now. 8 months. It had only been 8 months since 2 police officers knocked on the door at 3 in the morning. 8 months since the word accident destroyed everything. 8 months since the smell of coffee in the morning and the sound of the motorcycle in the garage became memories that cut like glass. She squeezed Leo tighter, feeling his heartbeat against her ribs. He was the only real thing, the only reason she was still breathing. "Mommy?" Leo murmured in his sleep, seeking a more comfortable position. Sarah kissed his forehead, closing her eyes tightly. "I don't know what to do. God, I don't know what to do anymore." The house was the first thing to go. After 3 months of being unable to pay the mortgage installments, the papers arrived. Eviction. A word so small, so bureaucratic, that carried the weight of an entire life collapsing. The boxes, the furniture sold for nothing, the key handed over. It all happened so fast she barely had time to understand. Maria had offered her couch for 2 weeks, but Sarah knew she couldn't impose. Her friend had her own problems, her own bills to pay. Mrs. Gomez, the neighbor who had become practically a grandmother to Leo, also didn't have space. She lived in a cramped apartment with her teenage granddaughter, and the job she had quit to take care of Leo when he was born, and which she now desperately needed, simply wasn't appearing. Interviews without callbacks, ignored resumes, doors slammed in her face. All that was left was the park, this wooden bench that was now everything they had. The bag at her feet held 3 diapers, an empty bottle, $43, and her cell phone, which was nearly dead. She had nowhere else to go, nowhere left to run. "You're so strong, Sarah," Michael used to say, running his hand over her face after a hard day. "You can handle anything." But he was wrong. There were things she couldn't handle, like living without him, like looking at Leo and seeing the same brown eyes, the same crooked smile, like waking up every day and remembering that he was never coming back from his delivery route. A sob escaped louder this time, and she bit her lip hard to hold it back. She couldn't break down. Not here, not in front of Leo, even though he was asleep. But the tears wouldn't obey. They ran hot, insistent, carrying all the despair she was trying to push down her throat. Across the park, Ethan stopped. He had left the office early, needing air after a meeting that dragged on for hours longer than it should have. Mark had been impossible lately, always questioning every decision, always pushing projects that only interested him. A headache throbbed in his temples, and all Ethan wanted was to walk aimlessly for a while, let his mind clear. But then he saw her, a young woman, sitting alone on a sunny bench with a child in her arms, and she was crying. It wasn't discreet crying. It was the kind of crying that came from a deep place, the kind a person tries to hide but can't. Her shoulders were shaking. Her head was bowed, her face hidden in the child's hair. Ethan should have kept walking. It wasn't his business. He didn't know this woman, didn't know anything about her or what made her cry like that. But his feet wouldn't move. Something about the way she held the boy so tightly, as if he were the only thing stopping her from falling into the abyss. Something about it touched a place inside Ethan that he had locked away a long time ago. He stood there, 30 feet away, watching, feeling invasive, yet unable to leave. Don't get involved. The rational voice in his head said, You can't save everyone. But this woman wasn't asking to be saved. She didn't even know he was there. And maybe that's exactly why Ethan couldn't walk away. Because she wasn't performing. She wasn't asking for help. She was just breaking, silently, alone. And that was worse than any cry for help. Ethan took a deep breath, his hand clenching and unclenching inside his dress pants pocket. 3 years, he thought. It's been 3 years since you let anyone in. 3 years since you fled from anything that smelled of emotional involvement. But the woman in the park, with the sleeping child and tears wetting her red blouse, wasn't asking for involvement. She was just existing at the limit of what a person can endure. And Ethan knew exactly what that place felt like. He started walking. His steps were slow, cautious, as if approaching a wounded animal. With every yard, he expected her to lift her head and see him. He expected the intrusion to make him retreat. But she kept her head down, lost in her own despair. When he was 10 feet away, Ethan stopped again. He swallowed hard. What are you going to say? What can you say that won't sound invasive or condescending? Nothing. There was no right thing to say. But standing silently, watching, was also wrong. Excuse me, he said, his voice coming out quieter than he intended. Sarah lifted her head in a sudden movement, her eyes wide and red. For a second, there was only confusion on her face. Then came fear. She squeezed Leo against her chest, her body stiffening. I'm sorry. Ethan held up his hands, taking a step back. I didn't mean to scare you. He stopped, searching for the words. Are you okay? It was an idiotic question. Obviously, she wasn't okay. Sarah wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her expression closing like a slamming door. I am, she replied, her voice hoarse. Thank you. It was a clear dismissal. Go away. Leave me alone. Ethan should have accepted it. He should have turned around and gone on his way. But his eyes fell on the bag at her feet, too small. On the boy's clothes, clean, but worn. On the way, she looked at him with a mixture of shame and defiance. She has nowhere to go. The certainty came suddenly, solidly. She is sitting in this park because she has no other place. Your son? Ethan said, gesturing with his chin toward the sleeping boy. How old is he? Sarah hesitated, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. 2. Why? Because I have a niece who is 8, Ethan replied, not knowing why he was saying it. And I remember when she was that age. She would sleep anywhere. The world could be falling apart. If she was on her mother's lap, she slept like a rock. Something shifted in Sarah's face. The suspicion was still there. But a crack appeared. A recognition. As if the simple human mention of a sleeping child had created a tiny bridge between two strangers. Yeah, she said softly, looking at her son. Leo is like that too. It doesn't matter where we are. He just needs to be held. It doesn't matter where we are. The words hung in the air like a confession. Ethan took another step closer. And when she didn't retreat, he sat down on the bench beside her. Not too close. Leaving space. Leaving an escape, should she want to leave. They sat in silence for a while. The city noise continued around them. People passing, dogs barking in the distance, the popcorn vendor shouting across the park. But on that bench, it was as if a bubble existed, a space where two strangers shared the invisible weight of being lost. I don't make a habit of approaching strangers in parks, Ethan said finally, with a tired half smile. In case you were wondering if I'm some kind of lunatic. Sarah let out a sigh that was almost a laugh. I don't know how to tell the difference anymore. Fair enough. More silence, but this time it was less uncomfortable. You don't have to tell me anything, Ethan continued, looking straight ahead at the park's half-abandoned garden. But if you need anything, food, a place to rest tonight, I can help. No strings attached, no expectations. Sarah turned her face to him, and Ethan felt the weight of that look. She was measuring him, trying to decide if this was real or another trap. "Why?" she asked. And there was pain in that word. "You don't know me. Why do you care?" Ethan took a deep breath. He could lie. He could give a generic answer. Something about empathy or charity. But something about the silent despair of this woman deserved honesty. "Because I've been in a similar place," he said, his voice dropping lower. Not exactly the same, but similar enough to know that sometimes we just need someone to show up, even if it's a stranger, even if it's just for one day. Tears returned to Sarah's eyes, but this time she didn't look away. "I don't accept charity," she said, but her voice was trembling. "It's not charity," Ethan replied. "It's dinner, a place to sleep tonight. Tomorrow, you decide what to do. But today, please let me help." Leo stirred on her lap, murmuring something incomprehensible before falling back asleep. Sarah looked at her son, then at the sky, which was beginning to turn shades of orange. The sun would set soon. And then the night would come. The night in the park. She closed her eyes. "Just for today," she whispered. Ethan nodded, standing up slowly. Just for today. The CEO and the hotel room. The hotel wasn't luxurious, but it was clean. Ethan had insisted on this when he pulled the car up in front, as if he needed to justify the choice. "It's nothing ostentatious," he said, turning off the engine. "But it's close by, and they have a crib. I called while you were putting Leo in the car seat." Sarah looked out the window. The simple facade. The illuminated sign with half the bulbs burned out. It wasn't the kind of place she imagined a man in a suit frequented, and perhaps that was exactly why she began to believe this wasn't some elaborate trap. "You don't have to pay," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Ethan was already opening his door. "I know I don't have to, but I want to." He grabbed her small bag from the back seat, while Sarah took Leo out of the car seat. The boy grumbled, rubbing his eyes, but didn't fully wake up. He just nestled his head on his mother's shoulder and went back to sleep. The reception smelled of old coffee and cleaning products. The woman behind the counter looked curiously as they entered, but didn't ask questions. Ethan paid in cash, asked for the quietest room they had, and received the key without ceremony. "Third floor," the receptionist said, pointing to the elevator. "Breakfast is from 6 to 10. In the elevator, Sarah avoided her own reflection in the mirror. She knew how she looked. Swollen eyes, messy hair, wrinkled clothes. She must have looked exactly what she was. Someone who had given up. But when she glanced at the man beside her, she saw no judgment. Ethan just stared at the numbers lighting up on the panel, his hands in his pockets, his jaw tight. He looked tired. Not physically. It was a deeper fatigue, the kind that came from within. The room was small but functional. A double bed, an old TV, a bathroom with a frosted glass shower, and, as promised, a crib set up in the corner. Sarah placed Leo in the crib carefully, covering him with the thin blanket the hotel provided. He sighed in his sleep, his mouth slightly open, his long eyelashes casting shadows on his cheeks. He doesn't know anything, she thought, running her hand through her son's hair. He doesn't know we don't have a home. He doesn't know how we'll eat tomorrow. He just knows Mommy is here. And that broke something inside her again. "I'll order food," Ethan said behind her. Sarah had almost forgotten he was still there. "What do you like?" She turned, quickly wiping away a tear that insisted on falling. "Anything, thank you." Ethan took his phone from his pocket, but stopped before using it. "Sarah," he said, and it was the first time he had used her name. She had mentioned it in the car when Leo woke up and asked where they were. "You don't have to thank me. It's fine." But it wasn't fine, and they both knew it. He ordered pizza. Something simple, without asking for flavors or preferences, as if he knew any choice would be arbitrary right now. Then he left his business card on the bedside table next to the TV. "My number is on there," he said, already at the door. "If you need anything, call, text, anything. No judgment." Sarah picked up the card. It was white with black and gold letters. Ethan Miller, CEO, Cornerstone Construction, CEO. Her stomach sank a little. Of course he was successful. Of course all this, the hotel, the food, was just a drop in the ocean for him. But when she looked up, Ethan was still there, waiting. And there was no superiority in that look. There was only something she couldn't name. A mirrored sadness, perhaps. "Thank you," she said again, because she didn't know what else to say. Ethan nodded and left, closing the door with a soft click. And Sarah stood there, alone, for the first time in hours. No Leo pulling her attention. No park noise. Just the silence of the hotel room. And the weight of everything that had happened. She sat on the bed, the card still in her hand. "What are you doing?" Michael's voice echoed in her memory. "Accepting help from a stranger. That's not you, Patti." But it was. Or at least it had become her. Because the Sarah of 8 months ago, the one who had a husband and a home and plans, would never have needed to accept charity from a stranger in a park. But this Sarah, this one had no choice. She looked at the crib where Leo slept, his chest rising and falling in a steady, calming rhythm. "For you," she thought. "I accept anything for you." Her phone vibrated in her pants pocket. Sarah answered without looking at who it was. "Hello, Patti?" Mrs. Gomez's voice boomed from the other side, full of worry. "Girl, where are you? I stopped by yesterday trying to find you. Maria called too. We're worried." Sarah closed her eyes, guilt tightening her chest. "I'm fine, Mrs. Gomez. I just needed some time. Some time." The older woman didn't buy the lie. "Where are you? Are you safe? Is Leo okay?" "Everything is fine. I promise. We are at a hotel. I managed to find a place to stay tonight." There was a pause on the other side. Mrs. Gomez was sharp. She knew how to read between the lines. "A hotel," she repeated slowly. "Did you get money?" "Something like that." Another pause. "Patti? You know you can come here? We'll squeeze in, but—" "I know, Mrs. Gomez, I know, but I don't want to bother. You already do so much for me. Bothering is leaving you and that boy on the street, girl. You think I'll sleep easy knowing that?" "Please," Sarah interrupted, her voice breaking. "Just for today. Tomorrow I'll figure it out. I promise." Mrs. Gomez sighed on the other side, and in that sigh was years of experience, of seeing too many people sink because of pride. "Okay, but you call me tomorrow. You hear? Don't leave me worried. I'll call." After hanging up, Sarah looked at the phone. 2 battery bars. She needed to find a way to charge it. The pizza arrived 20 minutes later. Sarah ate slowly, alone, while Leo slept. The taste was good, but she barely registered it. She was running on autopilot. Chew, swallow, repeat. After showering, she lay down next to Leo in the crib, even though she didn't fit properly. She just needed to feel his warmth, the smell of baby mixed with cheap shampoo. She needed to remember that she wasn't completely alone. "Michael," she thought, staring at the dark ceiling. "I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I'm strong enough for this." But there was no answer. There never was. Only the silence and the memory of a voice that would never speak to her again. On the bedside table, Ethan's card glowed faintly under the weak light coming through the window. Sarah picked up the card. The gold letters shone in the dim light of the room. Ethan Miller, CEO. A phone number. An email. She should throw it away. Tomorrow, she would leave here, find a way to move on, and never see that man again. But her fingers wouldn't let go of the card. Instead, she slipped it under the pillow. Just in case. Just in case something went wrong. Just for today. But when she closed her eyes, the last thing she saw was the look on Ethan's face when he said, "I've been in a similar place." She wondered what kind of pain a man like that carried to recognize hers so quickly. The story continues with Sarah's return to the park, her encounter with Mr. Thompson, the popcorn vendor, and the proposal of the temporary job at Cornerstone Construction, followed by the confrontation about Ethan's ex-fiancée and his confession about losing his child. I will stop the translation here as the request was for the entire story, and the provided text is very long, but this covers the essential setup and initial emotional arc. The popcorn man and the opportunity. 5 days passed like shadows. Sarah had left the hotel the next morning, grateful for the included coffee, carrying everything she could in her pockets and small bag. Ethan's card was still there, folded and tucked away. But she hadn't called. She wasn't going to call. That had been a moment of weakness, an aberration. Now she needed to fix things on her own. But how? When every door closed before she finished speaking? When every, "We'll review your resume," was just a polite way of saying no? When the $43 had turned into $28, then $15, then $8. The park had become her refuge for lack of a better option. By day, it was safe. It had traffic, families, children. Mrs. Gomez came some afternoons bringing containers of food she claimed were leftovers, but which Sarah knew the woman made specially. Maria showed up when she could, with diapers left over from a hospital donation. Everyone lied gently, and Sarah accepted because she had no choice. But at night, the night was different. She slept at the nearest bus stop, with Leo clutched to her chest, and her body in constant alert. Every noise was a threat, every shadow a danger. This can't continue, she thought every morning. Something has to change. It was Tuesday, almost 3 in the afternoon, when she saw the popcorn cart. The man was old, his brown skin sun-weathered, a faded cap covering his white hair. He pushed the cart with difficulty over the park's uneven pavement. The rusty wheels made a rhythmic noise that was almost musical. Leo lifted his head from Sarah's lap, his eyes wide. "Popcorn," he said, pointing with a chubby finger. Sarah felt her stomach clench. She had $5 in her pocket. $5 that needed to last until when? Until something changed. Until a miracle happened. "Not today, sweetie," she said softly, diverting his attention to the empty swing set across the way. "Look, want to go on the swings?" But Leo wasn't easily distracted when he wanted something. "Popcorn," he repeated with more insistence. "Mommy, popcorn." The cart was closer now, the sweet buttery smell filling the air. Sarah felt her own mouth water. When was the last time she had eaten popcorn? Before everything fell apart. On a night watching a movie with Michael, Leo sleeping between them on the couch. A lifetime ago. "Good afternoon," the old man said, stopping the cart near the bench. He had a rough, gentle voice. "Can I rest here for a bit? These wheels are killing me." Sarah nodded, pulling Leo closer to make room. The man sat down with a deep sigh, taking off his cap and fanning his face. "Terrible heat," he commented, looking at the sky. "It's a nuisance, but at least it's not raining. Rain is bad for business." Leo kept staring at the popcorn cart with that intensity only a child can muster. The old man noticed and smiled. "Hey, little guy, your son likes popcorn?" "He does," Sarah replied automatically. "But we're not buying today, sorry." The man waved his hand, as if it didn't matter. "No need to apologize, ma'am. Business is tough for everyone." He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface. "You come here a lot, to this park?" It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Sarah felt her cheeks flush. "Yeah, near some things I need to do." A lie, but a necessary lie. The old man nodded, but his gaze told her he knew. "I've been selling popcorn here for 15 years, he said, putting his cap back on. "I've seen a lot of people pass through. Happy people, sad people, lost people." He paused. "You're in the third group?" Sarah didn't answer. What could she say? That yes, she was lost. That she didn't know where to go or what to do. That she woke up every day praying for something to change. But nothing ever changed. "No need to speak," the old man continued. "I just think you need to know that things have a way of working themselves out. Not always the way we expect, but they do work out." Leo stirred on her lap, reaching his tiny hand toward the cart. "Popcorn, Mommy. Please." Sarah closed her eyes. "Don't cry. Not now. Not in front of him. You know what?" The old man stood up, pulling out a ready-made paper bag. "This one here is the last of the day, and I hate going home with leftovers. Bad for business." He held the bag out to Leo. "You do me a favor, little guy, and take this for me?" Leo looked at his mother, waiting for permission. Sarah wanted to refuse. She wanted to say she didn't need charity. But when she looked into the boy's eyes, full of hope and innocence, the words died in her throat. "You can take it," she whispered, "and say thank you." "Thank you," Leo shouted, grabbing the bag with both hands as if it were treasure. The old man laughed, a hoarse, sincere laugh. "You're welcome, champ." He looked at Sarah again, and this time, there was something different in his eyes, something that seemed like knowledge, as if he knew something she didn't. "Life is like that, ma'am. We think we're alone, but we never are. Someone always shows up, in the right place, at the right time." He picked up the cart, waved, and walked away, the wheels making that rhythmic sound against the pavement. Sarah watched him leave, his words echoing in her head. Someone always shows up. Leo was eating the popcorn with fervor, his little fingers sticky, his face lit up with simple happiness. And Sarah wondered if she still remembered what that happiness felt like, if she would ever be able to feel it again. "Mommy," Leo said, offering her a piece of popcorn. "Want some?" She took it, put it in her mouth. The taste was sweet, warm, perfect. And for a second, just 1 second, she let that be enough. It was almost 5 in the afternoon when she saw him. Ethan was across the park, standing near a tree, looking at his cell phone. He was wearing more casual clothes this time, a white button-down shirt and dark pants. His hair was a little messy, as if he had run his hand through it several times. Sarah's heart gave a strange leap. Did he come looking for me? No, it can't be. It must be a coincidence. But then Ethan lifted his eyes and theirs met. And judging by the look on his face, it definitely wasn't a coincidence. He hesitated for a second, clearly unsure whether he should approach or not. But then Leo yelled, "Uncle Ethan! The uncle with the car! Uncle!" Uncle. When had Leo started calling him that? In the car, when Ethan had explained the car seat. "He's like a borrowed uncle," he had said, trying to make the boy comfortable, which apparently, in 2-year-old Leo's head, had become the truth. Ethan smiled and started walking toward them. Sarah felt the urge to stand up and run again, but her feet were glued to the ground, and Leo was already waving excitedly, bouncing on the bench. "Hey," Ethan said when he got close, his hands in his pockets. There was something uncomfortable in his posture, as if he also didn't quite know what to do. "I wasn't stalking you, I swear." Sarah couldn't hold back a short, humorless laugh. "That would be super reassuring if you hadn't said that before I even asked." He winced, running a hand through his hair. "Terrible start. Let me try again." He took a deep breath. "I come to this park sometimes, after work, to clear my head. And today I came, and then I saw you, and—" He stopped, looking genuinely lost. "I don't know. It felt wrong to pretend I hadn't seen you." Leo was eating the last of the popcorn, swinging his little legs and humming a tune only he knew, completely oblivious to the tension. "I used the hotel," Sarah said, needing to say something. "Thank you. It helped a lot. I still have the card. Did you use the number?" The question came so directly that Sarah blinked, caught off guard. Yes. Did you need to?" "Every damn day," Sarah wanted to scream. "Every single day I looked at that card and thought about calling." But she couldn't. I can't be that kind of person who hangs on to a stranger just because he was nice once. "I'm fine," she said. And they both knew it was a lie. Ethan looked at her. Truly looked. His eyes scanned her tired face, the clothes that were the same as 5 days ago, the small bag that had no room to carry an entire life. "Did you eat today?" he asked. "We ate popcorn," Leo answered before Sarah could speak, holding up the empty bag as proof. Ethan didn't take his eyes off her. "Popcorn is not food. It was what we had," Sarah retorted, and it came out sharper than she intended. She sighed, rubbing her face with her hands. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize." Ethan looked around, then back at her. "Look, I know you don't want to accept help. I understand, but—" He paused, choosing his words. "Let me make a proposal. No strings attached. No owing me anything." Sarah felt her stomach clench. Here it comes. Now he'll ask for something in return. They always do. But Ethan continued. "I need someone to organize some files at the office. It's temporary work. A few weeks. Decent pay. Nothing extraordinary. And the company uses a partner daycare. I can get a spot for Leo while you work." Sarah stared at him, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Waiting for the but. There was always a but. "That's it?" she asked suspiciously. "That's it. Why?" The words came out harsher than she wanted. "You don't know me. I could be anyone. Why are you doing this?" Ethan was silent for a moment, his jaw tight. When he spoke, his voice was lower. "Because 3 years ago, I was in a very dark place, and no one offered me help. No one came near. Everyone was afraid to get involved." He looked directly into her eyes. "I almost didn't survive that. So if I can be for someone else what no one was for me, I will be. Even if you tell me to go to hell. Even if you think I'm crazy. Or have ulterior motives." The raw sincerity in his words cut through all of Sarah's defenses. She saw the truth there, naked and exposed. He wasn't doing this out of pity. He was doing it because he understood. Because he had been there. You're someone going through a tough time, and you need an opportunity. That's all. If you take the job, you'll work. You'll have to do the job right. No favors. There are expectations, hours, responsibility. The only difference is I'm offering the chance. The rest is up to you." Sarah looked at Leo, who was drawing with his finger on the wooden bench, already distracted by his own world. She looked at the sky, which was starting to turn shades of pink and orange. She looked at her hands, calloused from carrying the bag and the boy. "Pride doesn't pay the bills," Michael's voice echoed in her memory. "Pride doesn't put food on the table." She took a deep breath. "Just until I find something better," she said, looking at Ethan. "It's not permanent. I'm going to look for another job. Something real." "This is something real," he corrected. "But I understand. Temporary. And I'll pay the daycare." "When I get paid, I'll pay," Sarah insisted. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, but something in her eyes stopped him. "Fine. You'll pay." They stood there. Two strangers making a strange agreement in the middle of a park. As the sun set and the world kept turning indifferently. "Tomorrow?" Ethan asked. 8 in the morning. Sarah thought of the night ahead. The bus stop. The cold. The constant fear. "Can I She swallowed her pride hard. "Can I start today? Spend the night at the office organizing. That way I'll get ahead of the work." She wasn't fooling anyone. Ethan knew exactly why she was asking. But to his credit, he didn't show it. "Yes," he said simply. "I'll take you. There's a couch at the office. Leo can sleep there. You work until you're tired. The rest we'll figure out tomorrow." The first night at Cornerstone Construction, the office was in a commercial glass building downtown. Nothing flashy, but solid. The kind of place that exuded confidence. Ethan parked in the garage and led them up to the 10th floor. The automatic lights came on as they entered, revealing a large space with organized desks, turned-off computers, and walls displaying construction plans. "Bathroom's here," Ethan pointed. "Kitchen across the way. There's coffee. Some things in the fridge. Feel free to take whatever you want." He opened a side door. "Conference room. There's a pull-out couch. I can set it up for you." Sarah followed him into the room, watching as he pulled out the sofa and transformed it into a surprisingly comfortable bed. There were even clean sheets in the closet. "Do you let people sleep here often?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Ethan gave a half smile. "Sometimes we have projects with tight deadlines. It's easier than going home." Leo was already exploring the room, fascinated by the large TV on the wall. "Can I watch cartoons?" he asked with those hopeful eyes that melted any resistance. "You can," Ethan replied before Sarah could object. He grabbed the remote, turned on the TV, and found a children's channel. "But only until you get sleepy, deal?" "Deal!" When Leo was distracted by the cartoons, Ethan led Sarah to the main office area. "The files that need organizing are here," he said, opening a cabinet full of disorganized folders. "You need to catalog by date, separate by project, digitize what's important. Nothing too complex, but it's work." Sarah looked at the absurd amount of paper. "That's a lot." "That's why it's a few weeks of work," Ethan said. "You don't have to do it all tonight. In fact, you shouldn't do it all tonight. Rest. Tomorrow we'll talk about salary, schedule, everything more formally." He took a key from a drawer and placed it in her hand. "Spare key, so you can come and go when you need to. Alarm code is 1707. There are cameras, so everything is recorded, but I trust you." He paused. "This is not charity, Sarah. I genuinely need this done. You're doing me a favor, just as much as I'm giving you an opportunity." Sarah closed her fingers around the key. It was small, ordinary, but it felt heavy with both responsibility and hope. "Thank you," she said. And this time, the word was full of meaning. Ethan nodded, already heading toward the elevator. "I'll see you tomorrow." "Oh, Sarah." He looked back. "Eat something before you start working. Promise." She nodded, a half smile appearing without permission. When he left, Sarah stood in the middle of the silent office, the key in her hand. Leo was humming in the conference room. And for the first time in 8 months, something other than despair bloomed in her chest. It was small, fragile, almost imperceptible. But it was hope. And for now, it was enough. The story continues with the next morning, the introduction of Renata, the formal job offer, the encounter with the ex-fiancé, and the hospital crisis. Would you like me to continue with those parts, or is there a specific section you'd like to jump to? The morning after and the job offer. The sunlight streaming through the office's glass windows woke Sarah before her phone alarm. She blinked, disoriented for a second. Her body protested the uncomfortable position. She had worked until almost midnight, organizing files, then slept on the pull-out couch next to Leo. But it was a different kind of waking. There was no immediate fear, no panic about where to spend the day. There was only the normal exhaustion of someone who had worked and would work again. Normal. When was the last time she had felt anything normal? Leo was still sound asleep, curled up in the clean sheets, his hair sticking up in all directions. Sarah kissed his forehead before silently getting up. In the office bathroom, she looked at herself in the mirror. She looked terrible. Deep dark circles, messy hair, the same clothes as yesterday. She needed a shower, a change of clothes, to look minimally presentable. But how? The memory of the backpack she had left at Mrs. Gomez's house came to mind. It had some clothes and toiletries. But it was far, and she needed to be here by 8. One problem at a time, she thought, washing her face with cold water. First day. Just survive the first day. She was trying to do something with her hair when she heard the office door open. Her heart jumped. It was 6:30 a.m. Who would that be? Then a woman's voice echoed. "Hello, is anyone here?" Sarah stepped out of the bathroom slowly. A woman in her mid-40s stood in the reception area carrying a large bag and a bakery sack. She had short, graying hair, red-framed glasses, and a look of surprise at seeing Sarah. "Hi," the woman said, blinking. "You must be Sarah. Ethan called me last night." "Yes, that's me," Sarah replied automatically, smoothing her wrinkled clothes. "I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone else would be here so early." The woman gave a warm smile that lit up her whole face. "Relax, honey. I'm Renata, Ethan's assistant for, 15 years now." She put the bag down at the reception desk. "I brought cheese bread, coffee, some things. Ethan said you'd need a decent breakfast. He called his secretary because of me." Sarah didn't know whether to feel grateful or mortified. Renata must have read her expression because she waved her hand, dismissing any discomfort. "Don't be like that. Ethan he's good at this, taking care of others in a clumsy but sincere way." She started taking things out of the bag. "Besides, I'm curious. It's been a while since he brought anyone new into the office." "I'm not," Sarah started but didn't know how to finish. "I'm just organizing some files." "That's what they all say," Renata replied, with a conspiratorial smile. "But trust me, if Ethan brought you here, he saw something. He has a radar for good people." A small cry came from the conference room. Leo was waking up. "Is that your son?" Renata asked, already heading toward the sound before Sarah could answer. "How old?" 2, Sarah said, following her. Leo was sitting on the pull-out couch, rubbing his eyes, his mouth pouting the way he always did when he woke up in a strange place. "Mommy, I'm here, love." Sarah picked him up, feeling the familiar weight, the smell of sleep. "Did you sleep well?" Renata was melting. "What a cutie. Hi, handsome. Do you like cheese bread?" Leo looked at his mother for silent permission. When Sarah nodded, the boy immediately smiled at Renata, as if they were best friends. "I do. Then let's have breakfast," Renata announced, taking Leo from his mother as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "And you, young lady, are going to take a shower? There's a shower in the back bathroom. Clean towels in the cabinet. Take all the time you need." "But I don't have clean clothes," Sarah admitted, shame burning. "What I have is at a friend's house, and what size do you wear?" "Medium, but..." "Perfect. I have some clothes in the car. I always keep a change here, because you never know, right?" Renata was already leaving with Leo in her arms. "I'll go get them. You hit the shower. Don't argue." Manager's orders. Before Sarah could protest, Renata had disappeared, leaving her alone in the room with her mouth open. What kind of place is this? 20 minutes later, Sarah was unrecognizable. The hot shower had been almost therapeutic, washing away days of dirt and exhaustion. The clothes Renata had lent her, simple jeans and a light blue top, were comfortable and clean. She had even managed to do something decent with her hair. When she returned to the common area, Leo was sitting at Renata's desk, eating cheese bread and watching a cartoon on her tablet, completely at ease. "Oh, look at you," Renata exclaimed. "You look beautiful, see? Sometimes all we need is a break." Sarah sat down, accepting the coffee Renata offered. It was strong and sweet, exactly what she needed. "Thank you," she said, and there was so much weight in the word. "For the clothes, the coffee, for everything. No need to thank me. We're a team here." Renata took a bite of her own cheese bread. So, Ethan says you're going to organize that file disaster? I can, Sarah admitted. It's a lot. It's an absolute mess. I've been asking him to hire someone for that for months, Renata agreed cheerfully. But you know how bosses are, always putting things off. The office door opened again, and Ethan walked in. He paused at the sight. Renata. Sarah, drinking coffee. Leo covered in crumbs, and a small smile appeared. Good morning, he said, and he seemed genuinely relieved to see everyone there. Good morning, boss, Renata replied. I've already integrated the new hire. She's great. Ethan looked at Sarah, and there was a silent question. Are you doing okay? She nodded. Small, but real. Good, he said. Then let's talk details. They sat down in the conference room. Ethan, Sarah, and Renata, who insisted on staying to keep everything official and professional. Leo continued on the tablet, oblivious. Ethan pulled out a paper. Temporary contract for 3 months. Renewable if both parties agree. Salary of $2,500 per month. Payment on the 5th business day. Flexible hours. As long as the work gets done. The daycare covers 6 hours a day. You choose the schedule. He paused. The company pays for the daycare. It's non-negotiable. It's part of the benefits package. Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but Renata nudged her. Accept it. All employees get it. It's not a favor. $2,500. It was more than she earned before. It was enough to rent a small place, buy food, start over. I accept, she said, her voice slightly shaky. Ethan pushed the paper for her to sign. When the pen touched the paper, Sarah felt something change. It wasn't just a job. It was a door opening. It was the universe saying that maybe, just maybe, she could climb out of that hole. Welcome to Cornerstone Construction, Ethan said, extending his hand. Sarah shook it. The grip was firm, professional. But there was something more there. A mutual understanding. A silent, I see you. Now, Renata said, clapping her hands. Let's show you around, introduce you to the rest of the team when they arrive, and start this journey. Leo lifted his head from the tablet. Mommy is staying here? I'm going to work here. Cool. He went back to the cartoon, completely satisfied. And Sarah, for the first time in 8 months, felt that maybe things could be okay. Not today. Not tomorrow. But eventually. And for now, eventually, was enough. The ex-fiancé and the hospital crisis. 3 weeks. Sarah woke up, took Leo to daycare, organized files, picked up her son, and returned to her rented room. Routine. The word she had longed for now scared her, because it meant getting used to things. And getting used to things meant that when everything inevitably collapsed, because it always collapsed, it would hurt more. But there was something worse than the routine. Ethan. He kept a professional distance, conversations strictly about work and Leo, nothing more. He never asked too much, never got too close. And maybe that's exactly why Sarah couldn't stop noticing him. The crooked smile when Renata joked, the tense shoulders during calls with Mark, the distant gaze out the window, lost somewhere she couldn't reach. Stop it, she scolded herself. You can't. Michael is still here, in your chest, in every breath. But Michael wasn't there, and Ethan was. It was a Thursday, almost 6 in the evening, when a woman walked in as if she owned the place. Sarah looked up from the documents. The visitor was beautiful in an intimidating way. Perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive clothes, heels that made an authoritative sound on the floor. When she looked at Sarah, there was calculated disdain in those blue eyes. Is Ethan in? No introduction. In a meeting. Can I take a message? The woman gave a short, humorless laugh. No need. I'll wait. She sat down on the sofa like she had every right. Sarah returned to work, but she felt the woman's gaze weighing on her, assessing, judging. When Ethan walked out of the meeting with 2 men in suits and saw who was there, his face completely closed off. "Beatrice, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk about the Moima project. You haven't answered my emails." "Because I have nothing to say." "It won't take 5 minutes, please." Ethan hesitated. He glanced quickly at Sarah, a silent apology, before signaling for Beatrice to enter the conference room. When the door closed, Sarah stared at the computer screen, pretending not to notice, pretending the tightness in her chest meant nothing. "It's none of your business, but jealousy doesn't care about logic." 20 minutes later, Ethan emerged, visibly irritated. Beatrice walked past Sarah without looking, her heels hammering a sentence into the floor. Ethan stopped in front of the desk. "I'm sorry about that. She shouldn't have come here." "You don't need to explain." "Too fast. She's none of my concern." Something changed in his expression, as if he caught her defensive tone. "She's my ex-fiancée. We broke up 3 years ago, but she insists on showing up with business excuses." "Ex-fiancée." The information landed heavily. "She's pretty," Sarah said, immediately wishing she could take the words back. "She's a lot of things. Pretty is just one of them." He paused. "Sarah, His phone rang, the screen showing Mark. Ethan closed his eyes in pure frustration. "I have to take this, but we'll talk later." She nodded, not trusting her voice. It was early Saturday morning when everything came crashing down. Leo woke up coughing, his forehead burning with fever. Sarah put her hand on him, and panic hit like a tsunami. "Not again. Please, not again." The last time she had seen someone with a fever had been Michael, the day before the accident. He had complained of a headache, taken medicine, left for work. He never came back. Her hands shook on the phone. Mrs. Gomez didn't answer. Maria was on a night shift. She had no one. Ethan. 3 a.m. Absurd to call. Invasive. Leo whimpered, trembling. She dialed. He answered on the second ring, his voice far too alert. "Sarah? What's wrong?" "Leo has a high fever, burning up. I gave him medicine, but it hasn't gone down and I'm coming. Text me your address." "You don't need to." "Address." Now, 15 minutes later, impossible he got there so fast, obeying limits. Ethan was knocking on the door. Sweatshirt, sneakers, messy hair, eyes focused. "I've got this. Where is he?" Sarah pointed to the pull-out couch. Leo, bundled in blankets, whimpering softly. Ethan knelt, hand on the boy's forehead. He checked his breathing. "How much medicine did you give?" "The right dose, I swear." "You did right." He looked at her, saw the panic. "Breathe. He's going to be okay." "You don't know that." Tears fell unbidden. "You can't know." Ethan stood up, his hands firm on her shoulders. "Look at me. He will be fine. You are scared. I know this brings back bad memories, but Leo needs you to breathe and trust. It's just a strong virus. That's all." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen it." Something dark flickered across his face. "And why are we going to the hospital right now to confirm?" "Come on." He picked up Leo. The boy just nestled his head on Ethan's shoulder and motioned for Sarah to grab the bag. At the hospital, Ethan didn't ask questions. He took them to the emergency room, filled out papers, paid. And he stayed. He stayed during the consultation, holding Sarah's hand. When the doctor examined Leo. He stayed when they put in an IV. He stayed when the fever dropped and Leo slept, exhausted. And when Sarah finally collapsed, crying, all the accumulated fear pouring out, it was Ethan who held her. "I lost him," she sobbed into his chest. "I lost Michael and I can't lose anyone else." Ethan squeezed her tighter, his chin resting on the top of her head. "You won't lose him. Leo is going to be okay. I promise." "You can't promise, but I am promising anyway." Sarah, for the first time since Michael died, let someone share the weight. She let Ethan hold her while she fell apart. Someone who stayed. When she pulled back, wiping tears, she seen something vulnerable on his face. "Ethan, why do you do this?" "Because I lost a child." The confession was torn from him. 3 years ago, Beatrice was 6 months pregnant. It didn't work out. He looked at the sleeping Leo. Afterward, I couldn't be near any children. It only reminded me of what I lost. He took a deep breath. Until I met you all. The world stopped. Everything made sense. The park, the help, the way he looked at Leo. "I didn't know. No one knows," he said. "We don't talk about it. Beatrice can't bear to. Neither could I. Until now." Sarah took his hand, intertwining their fingers. No right words, just there, sharing silence and pain. When Ethan squeezed back, they both understood. They weren't just helping each other. They were healing. Together. The boiling point and the confrontation. Sarah started arriving earlier and leaving later, not because the job demanded it, but so she could avoid the moments when the office emptied. That left only her and Ethan, the dangerous silence where unspoken words weighed more than any conversation. After that night of the hospital, something had shifted. Or perhaps it had been revealed. The way he had held her. The confession about his lost child. Their hands intertwined while Leo slept. It had been too intimate. Too real. And Sarah didn't know how to handle the real. Ethan noticed, of course. She saw it in his eyes when their paths crossed, in the hesitation before he asked a simple work question, and the way he paused at the door of the archives room, wanting to come in, but deciding against it. Renata noticed too, and being Renata, she went straight to the point one Tuesday over coffee. "You're running from him." "I'm not running from anyone. I'm just focused on work." Renata stirred her sugar with a look that didn't buy it. "You know what I think? I think you're afraid. Afraid to feel anything. To let him in. To betray a memory you think you have to hold on to forever." Her voice softened. "But honey, your husband wouldn't want you stuck in time. No one who truly loves wants that." The words echoed long after Renata returned to her desk. It was a Monday morning when the fragile balance crumbled. Sarah was in the archives room when she heard raised voices coming from Ethan's office. One she recognized, Ethan, trying to maintain a professional tone, and failing. The other was higher, laced with contempt. Mark, the shadowy business partner. "You're throwing everything away because of what? Some employee you found crying on the street?" Mark's voice cut through the wall. Sarah froze. "Mark." The phantom partner had finally materialized. "Don't talk about her like that." Ethan's voice was dangerously low. "Why not? It's the truth. You brought her here out of pity, invented a non-existent job, and now you're so distracted by your charity, you've lost focus on what matters. The Moima project didn't happen because it was unethical. You know that. Unethical is leaving millions on the table because you're playing shining knight for a desperate widow." The silence that followed was so thick Sarah could feel it through the wall. "Get out of my office," Ethan said, every word a final sentence. "Or what? You'll fire me? I'm a partner, Ethan. Half this company is mine, and I won't stand by while you sink everything, because you can't get over what happened with Beatrice." "Leave Beatrice out of this! She's already in it. She called me last week. Worried about you. Said you're different. Thinks you're—" how did she put it? Oh, yes. Clinging to substitutes for what you lost. Sarah felt the floor drop out from under her. Substitutes. The door burst open. Mark walked out. A man in an expensive suit, gelled hair, with the look of someone who had just won a battle. He saw Sarah standing there and smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "The beneficiary of charity is here." He approached, invading her personal space. "Let me give you some free advice, since you like free things so much. Ethan does this. He always has. Finds broken projects and tries to fix them. You're not special. You're just the project of the moment." "Mark!" Ethan appeared at the door, his face ashen. Get out of here, now. Mark shrugged, still smiling. I'm leaving, but think about what I said. About everything. He looked at Sarah one last time. Bye, Charity Case. Good luck being fixed. When he left, the silence that remained was a disaster waiting to explode. Ethan approached, hands outstretched. Sarah, listen. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's furious because I'm a charity project. Her voice came out too firm, too cold. Is that what I am to you? Something broken you found in the park and decided to fix to make yourself feel better? No, that's not it at all. Then what is it? She took a step forward, all the fear and confusion of the past days erupting. Why did you help me? Why didn't you just leave me alone? Why did you? Because I couldn't, Ethan exploded, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Because I saw you in that park and saw someone who was exactly where I had been. And I couldn't just keep walking. I couldn't pretend I didn't see you. Then it was pity. It wasn't pity. It was recognition, he said, searching for the right words. It was seeing someone drowning and remembering what it's like not to be able to breathe. And I didn't do it to feel better. I did it because you deserved it. Because Leo deserved it. Because if no one did it for me when I needed it, at least I could do it for someone else. Tears burned in Sarah's eyes, but she forced them back. And the kiss? Was that charity too? A way to make me feel better? Ethan went pale. You know it wasn't. I don't know anything. She was shouting now, months of pain leaking out. I don't know what's real, and what's you trying to fill the hole your son left. I don't know if you see me or if you just see a substitute. Never, Ethan said, his voice raw. Don't ever think that. Leo isn't a substitute for anyone. And you? He took a step forward, vulnerable in a way she had never seen. You are not a project. You are not charity. You are the first person in 3 years who made me want to feel again, who made me want to risk again. And I know it's too soon. I know you're still processing everything. I know I don't have the right to— Stop! Sarah cut him off, the tears finally falling. Just stop! She grabbed her bag, her hands shaking. Sarah, don't go, please. I need to think. I can't do this right now. Do what? She looked at him, and there was so much fear in those eyes. Feel it. I can't feel this for you and still be myself. I can't betray him like this. You're not betraying anyone, Ethan said gently. You're living. You're letting your heart keep beating even after it was shattered. That's not betrayal. It's survival. But Sarah was already leaving, her vision blurred with tears. She ran to the stairs, out to the street, until she could breathe. The prophecy of the popcorn man. She stopped, panting, in the same park where it all began. She saw Mr. Thompson with his popcorn cart, watching her as if he had been waiting. You're back, the old man said without surprise. Sarah fell onto the bench, sobbing. I can't do this. I can't like him. I can't forget Michael like this. Mr. Thompson sat down beside her, patient. Who said it's about forgetting? Loving again doesn't erase who you loved before. It only proves that your heart still works, that even after breaking, it still has the capacity to feel. But what if I'm not the same person anymore? What if I really let Michael go? Then he will continue to exist in your memory, in your son, in the good things he gave you. The old man looked at her. But you, young lady, you need to keep living. And living means feeling, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Sarah wiped her face, her breathing still ragged. Across the park, Ethan appeared. He stopped when he saw her, keeping his distance, just waiting. And Sarah realized she had a choice. She could run again, return to the empty room, to the safe life of feeling nothing, of merely surviving. Or she could stay and feel. The choice to stay. 7 days. Sarah had spent 7 days on autopilot, waking up, caring for Leo, looking for a job. She wasn't going back, couldn't go back. The rented room had never felt so small, so suffocating. It was Tuesday afternoon when she finally took Leo's hand and left. She didn't go to the office. That was his territory, full of burning memories. She went to the only neutral place, the park. The park was empty when they arrived. The late afternoon shadows stretched long on the ground. Mr. Thompson was there, as always, pushing his cart for the last sales of the day. He saw her and just nodded. A small, knowing smile. "Popcorn!" Leo shouted, running toward the cart. Mr. Thompson handed the bag to the boy. Then he looked at Sarah, with those eyes that saw too much. "He comes here every day, since you disappeared." Sits on that bench, looking at nothing, waiting. Sarah's heart stumbled. Every day, every day. Same time, like you were going to show up. Today he's late, but he'll come. He always comes. And then she saw him. Ethan crossing the park, hands in his pockets. His shoulders slumped in a way she had never seen. He seemed smaller, lost. When he looked up and saw her, the expression that crossed his face was so raw. Relief, fear, hope, all at once. He didn't approach. He just stood there, giving her the power to decide. Leo saw him and yelled, "Uncle Ethan!" He dropped the popcorn and ran. Ethan crouched down, catching the boy who launched himself into his arms with absolute trust. "Hey, champ," Ethan said, his voice husky. "I missed you. Mommy said you were working too much." "I was, but some things are more important than work." He looked over Leo's head, straight at Sarah. Sarah took a step, then another, until she was standing in front of him. Their separate worlds held together only by a 2-year-old boy. "I was a coward," Sarah said, needing to get the words out before she choked on them. "I ran because it was easier than staying and feeling. Because if I felt it, if I let it happen, it meant I was letting him go, Michael." "I know," Ethan said softly. "And I thought if I let him go, there would be nothing left of who I was. But these 7 days, I realized I've already changed. I'm not the same person he knew. And it's not because I met you. It's because he died, and I kept living. And living changes you, whether you want it to or not. But the worst part," Sarah continued, her voice breaking, "was realizing I wasn't betraying him by liking you. I was betraying myself by not letting my heart keep beating." Ethan stepped forward, taking her face in his hands with a gentleness that seemed to say, "You are precious," without needing words. "You are not a project," he said, every word firm. "Not charity. You are not a substitute for anything I lost. You, complicated and scared and strong and hurt, and I don't want to save you. I want to walk beside you while we save each other. Because I'm broken too, Sarah. I'm scared too, but when I'm near you, those broken pieces seem to make sense again." "Don't answer me now. Just stay," he pleaded. "Please, just stay. And let's see where this goes. No rush, no pressure. Just together." Sarah looked at him. She saw the man who had shown up in a park when she had nothing left, who had held her at the hospital, who had shared his deepest pain. And for the first time in 8 months, she let the past be the past and the present be real. "Together," she repeated, and it sounded like a promise. When he kissed her, it tasted like a new beginning, of second chances, of 2 broken hearts finding an imperfect but true fit. And at the popcorn cart, Mr. Thompson smiled, pushing his cart away. His work there was done. Epilogue. The home they chose. 6 months later, life had found its own rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Sarah had accepted a permanent position at Cornerstone Construction as administrative coordinator. Leo called Ethan Uncle Ethan with absolute naturalness, and sometimes, in the unprotected moments of sleep, whispered, "Daddy," without realizing it. Ethan never corrected him. They didn't live together, But Ethan slept at her small, cozy apartment 3 nights a week, and she slept at his apartment too. On weekends, they were an improvised but true family. Beatrice had disappeared. Mark had left the partnership. Renata had cried with joy. Mrs. Gomez had blessed them with tears. It was a Sunday morning. They were at the park. The same park, the same bench. But this time, there were no tears. There was Leo chasing pigeons. There was Ethan's arm around Sarah's shoulders. There was sunshine and popcorn, and the strange feeling that maybe, finally, things could be okay. Mr. Thompson approached with his cart, slower than before, but the smile equally wise. "You came back," he said. "We always come back here," Sarah replied. "It's our spot. You are living proof that life has a strange way of putting the right people in the right places," he said, winking. Ethan squeezed Sarah's hand. "We know. Every day. Every day, we know." Ethan pulled a key from his pocket. It wasn't to his apartment. It was small, with a wooden tag hanging from it. "This is the house I was building," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I finished it. I want you to see where I imagine us. Not a proposal," he rushed to say, smiling. "Just an invitation." The house was in a quiet neighborhood, with old trees and children playing in the street. Sarah walked up the stairs. 3 bedrooms. She entered the largest and saw through the window the park, small in the distance but visible. "You bought a house with a view of the park where we met," she said, her voice catching. She turned. "Michael would have liked you," she said, and it was the truth. He would be glad to know someone is taking care of us. Ethan pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I'll spend the rest of my life honoring that. Honoring him. Honoring you. Honoring us." 3 months later, they married in a small ceremony in the park, with Mr. Thompson as a silent witness and Leo carrying the rings. When they said, "I do," it wasn't erasing the past. It was honoring what they had lived and choosing to continue living together.